All right, everybody. My name is Clark from Cali Paddler, and I am sitting here with Will Reichenstein, who is fast, super friendly, and rocks a beard like nobody else on the water. So
not so much anymore, though.
It's a little lighter there.
Yeah,
It's not
subdued.
Subdued. Good work. Welcome, my friend. Good to see you on the camera. And
good to see you.
You got some magic stuff happening that you're kind of creating in your shop, and we're getting out. I would love to talk to you about your three-man canoe. So if you got some time, let's hear all about it. Tell me from the beginning, this dream, this creation, and it, man.
Well, it's been a while. It's been a long to me process. It feels long. It's been, we started Vaugh House in 2018, and it was just a repair shop. That was the sole purpose. We were doing repairs, was doing a little bit of clinics here and there, but the shop was mainly just for repair work, 1-man, 6-mans. And then there was a close friend of mine, not then, he is now, and now business partner, who kept kind of poking me a little bit, asking about where to get 3-mans. He was really interested in getting a 3-man. He said, well, Phi has theirs, Tiger has theirs. And he says, no, I want one from here. I said, well, me too. I love one. I don't know what to tell you. And so he goes, how much would it cost to build one? I said, I don't know. I have no idea. And I kept kind of just doing my own thing with the shop and the repairs. And he just kept poking and poking here and there. And he says, I want a 3-man. What's it going to take? And I finally started doing more research and asking the guys that I kind of thought could help me and guide me along this, because I thought it was just going to be a one-off deal, which looking back on it is extremely naive, because I've never designed a canoe before. I've built boats out of molds in Kai's shop when I was living over there on Maui. And you can build 100 boats out of a mold, but if you're not the one that built the design or made the design, made the plug, built the mold, and did that entire process, it doesn't matter how many boats you build out of a mold, you still got a long way to go in learning how to create a design. And then not to mention, the more people I talk to, especially Tiger, he told me, if you're building a one-off boat, he goes, you don't want to shape it out of foam. He goes, because if you mess up on it, that's it. So he's the one that eventually, as the ball got rolling, he convinced me to do a cedar strip canoe. I made the design.
Why did he get, what was that discussion like? I mean, and explain what cedar strip means for those of us who
So typically, like the OC ones that we're used to now, they get shaped out of a foam block. Like Kai recently just released his video introducing a new flat water design, right?
Yeah.
And it was a good look at it. You got to see the foam going through the bandsaw and the shaping, and that's typically, it's similar to a surfboard. You create your profiles, you shape your foam block, you glass it, and you make your master, your plug that eventually gets molded, and then that's what's used to replicate the design over and over and over. And boats are out in the world. With the way that this 3-man started, it was really only meant to be just a one and done type of thing. And if you're doing a one and done type of thing, then you start to look more towards the cedar strip canoes, where you have stations or like ribs that are laid out on a table, and you're bending small strips of wood around those stations. And it's just a much, I guess, more efficient way of building a canoe that you're only going to, maybe you could make it multiple times, but if you're only going to make it once, it's really the best way to go. And I had no clue about it. And it was when I was talking to Tiger on the phone and kind of explaining what this guy wanted me to try to do. And he said, well, you should consider the, cedar strip canoes. And then you go down the YouTube rabbit hole, and before you know it, finally, it took a few months before I decided that, all right, repairs had slowed down enough. I got some time. I got a little extra money. Let's start this project. And really, ignorance was bliss, because I started getting going on it, and I look back on it now and I go, I had no idea what I was getting into. Really, really no idea. The amount of, I guess, addiction that would come with with trying to design and build a boat.
Now, when you're building this out, I think traditional canoes, like koa canoes, the original traditional canoes, where you're working with the wood, you're choosing the strips basically based on how they look, how they line up. Was it pretty methodical that first round?
No.
No?
I will be very honest with people when they ask me things like that. I had never worked with anything like this before. I just watched a ton of videos online. The strips of cedar, I ordered them all pre-milled, and so they showed up basically in bundles, and all the bundles are from the same pieces of wood, so they're pretty well organized. So a lot of that kind of thinking of the aesthetics of it was kind of taken out. And to be honest, I wasn't worried about the aesthetics of it. It just wasn't in the front of my mind. I was more concerned about the shape and the design and the volume and everything else I was trying to get right.
Which is fun. When I saw that first version, it was gorgeous. And I remember thinking, aesthetics wise, this is eye catching, and everybody on the beat. This was at the Hana.
If you want to see, so like anything in wood strip can there's certain people that can make those things pop and look really like Jimmy Terrell, with quick blade. You take a look at his boats, his cedar strip, the 4-man, what he's taken that thing up to the Yukon, that style of canoe. The name's spacing on me. It's just more of a traditional style 4-man canoe they were going to do the Yukon race in. He's got a OC1 and an OC2 cedar strip. He's on a whole nother level when it comes to the aesthetics of a cedar strip canoe. There's an art I've learned now that's very, these guys take it very seriously. And I am not interested in that personally. It's not my wheelhouse. It's not my game yet. I'm more focused on the function of the thing and trying to evolve a design to get to a point that maybe one day I'll be able to translate into a fully molded carbon fiber version. I love the aesthetic look of it, yes, but that's just not what I'm totally interested in. I'm more interested in the design. And the nice part about doing that cedar strip planking is you can adjust your stations. You can change your stations from boat to boat, make new stations, change a lot more of your profiles of your canoe really on the fly from one boat to the other, really quickly. That's one advantage that you have. And so from trying to go from that first canoe to where we are now, that's what we've been doing. I've been able to adjust these things and change them and make adaptations to the boat a lot faster than if I would have just tried to shape one out of foam, really with having no idea what I was doing, which is why I'm glad certain people I called advised me away from that.
Tell me about some of the people who you've been leaning on during this process. Inspirational people you just, you call in the middle of the night and be like, I can't, I'm stuck.
Yeah.
Who are some of the folks that have been kind of creating this dream with you?
So originally my business partner now, he's down in San Diego, is Aaron. And he was the one that, to make it all happen, there's a lot of people that can design and have the ability to build canoes. There's more people than you think. There's a lot of handy people in the paddling world, but you need money. That's just the fact of the matter. You need some sort of funding, or you need to have a really good job and have a lot of side cash to be able to fund a dream that, like, if you're getting into this with the intention of making money, you're going to get disappointed. You know, it takes a lot of capital to start from virtually from the ground up, you know.
Right.
So Aaron was a big help in that aspect, where he was able to supplement things that I needed to really get going. Then, of course, you know, I've got Kai Bartlett, who's been one of my best friends over the years, but who taught me almost all the stuff that I know about building canoes. Tiger on the Big Island has been a big help. My old building partner at Kai's shop, Nate Loyola, has been a big help. All these guys that I used to kind of be in the world with over in Hawaii, and who, you know, we all kind of are able to bounce certain things off each other, you know, and Jimmy too at Quick Blade. You know, I've been able to go up to his shop and see his boats and get disappointed that mine don't look like his, and you know, and there's more people that I know will come to mind throughout
Right
this.
on. Yeah, it's funny how we lean.
It's a big group effort, you know.
Yeah, I bet. I'm sure your family's excited to see the progress too.
Yeah. It's nice that something's come of it, because we did the first boat, and I was really stubborn on not wanting to copy anything. I didn't want anybody to be able to look at it and say, "Oh, it looks like this boat," or "It looks like that boat," or you must have taken measurements and drawings off of it. I was really I didn't want to give anybody that chance to say that. And so when we did the first boat, I wish I'd copied something, because it was really bad. Proportionally, we took it out of the shop, and I realized really fast how off I was. It looked good because of the wood, but it was proportionally traumatizing. I thought it was all right. Well, there goes that drain.
Oh man, that's tough. How do you rebound from that?
Well, like, you need help, you know. I immediately knew the things that I wanted to change, but in order to do that, you need help. You need capital, you need time, you need all these things. And I was in a very lucky position to have been given the chance to do that. And so my business partner, Aaron, said, "Well, what's it going to take to do another one? You know, take another stab at it." And so we added some things up. Before you know it, still doing it on the side, you know, still doing repairs mainly, and doing this on the side. And so it's taking a while, but redrew the boat up, took aspects that I did like, took out the things I didn't, and then did a second prototype. And then that one was a lot closer to something that I would be comfortable letting the general public paddle. It was still not, there was a lot of road bumps in this process, you know, where you can visualize a lot of things, you can draw a lot of things, and then when you see it actually come to life, you can be very disappointed at times. But also see that there's potential, you know, and that's why I respect a lot of these guys who have been in this game for a long time making their own boats, because I'm feeling those the hiccups along the way. Right. You know,
I mean, if there was a perfect canoe design the first time, we wouldn't have 12 versions of OC1s to choose from for the last 20 years. So there's a lot of history and evolution in design and surfboards and canoe building, materials change. So tell me so you went from that to the second version. What version are we looking at now?
Now we're at number 4.
Okay.
So number 4 is the official production model.
Yeah.
So we took number 3. The design wasn't dramatically different from number 2, except that we molded the new AMA, we molded the shape of the deck. So by doing that, we solidified our length and our widths and everything from the seam line where the molded deck meets the wood. That deck portion that's it. That's what we got now for the foreseeable future for this design. Everything below that, though, is still adjustable, apart from the width and the length. Okay. Everything below that, and that's part of the big reason why I wanted to keep it wood strip on the bottom, is I can adjust the overall height of the boat. I can adjust the rocker. I can adjust just about anything, as long as I stay within the dimensions of my deck shape now. And okay. That can allow me to make new stations and try out new things and try out new hull designs and kind of keep learning, honestly.
Nice.
To keep learning and keep trying to find out as much as I can before I move on to the next thing, you know.
So you're feeling good about where it's at right now? You think it's
I'm happy with it. Yeah. There's always things that I start thinking about that I want to try out and adjust. But I've learned through this whole process that at some point you got to be happy with what you got for a moment.
Yep.
Make that, a few times, and then take what you've learned, apply it to the next thing, and that's the natural evolution of it. So I'm glad that we didn't just make the first one or the second one and say, this is it. Mm-hmm. If you like it, great. If you don't, you don't. And then kind of start the growth back at that stage one. I'm glad I was able to have the time and the funding to take my time to get to this point. And now I can start the evolution and the growth of this boat.
Right on.
And it's good to do it. That's with the 3-man. It's a weird boat, right? There's not a lot of them out there, especially in California.
No, yeah.
That was another big reason for doing the 3-man, was because it's not an OC1 or a V1 or a 6-man where there's really, really good designs out there right now. I didn't want to try to compete with anything. And I was also interested in the 3-man. It's a weird boat. It's a training boat. It's a really fun boat when you got a really good crew, and it's a terrible boat when you got a bad crew.
So it's like every other canoe.
Yeah. It's like the best 6-man you've ever been in, or it's the worst 6-man you've ever been in. And everything's amplified. It's you feel every movement, good or bad.
Okay.
You feel every poke, good or bad. It's a very fine-tuned creature.
So let's get into the details of this. For all the people who've been kind of hearing and seeing pictures and posts and videos, without going into the specific dimensions, but like how heavy is this going to be? Can it fit on a truck? Can it fit on a trailer?
Yeah, if you've got, so it's 100 pounds.
Okay.
The production model would be 100 pounds. The hull itself is 85, depending on if we reinforce more or less. I would say to play it safe, between 85 and 90 pounds is your hull. Sorry, so let me back up. Not necessarily 100 pounds, no false advertising there. It'll be more like 105.
Okay.
Because with the Yakos and the AMA fully rigged, depending on what the hull weight is, between 85 and 90, you add another 10 to 15 pounds for the Yakos and AMA. So you've about 105 pounds fully rigged. So not that bad.
No, yeah.
You guys can easily carry it. If you've got a truck with a wide enough rack base, like if you've got a lumber rack, or something that's got like a 12-foot span, that's what I transport it on. You just flip it upside down, have it on the cockpits, and it can go pretty easily on a truck.
What kind of length are we talking about?
32 feet. So It's 32 feet long, 17 inches wide at its widest point. And it's, 105 pounds fully rigged, but really only, 85-pound hull going on top of the truck. It's for a team of 3, it's very maneuverable if you have the right equipment to move it. You know, don't go putting this on your Honda Fit. It's not going to work.
What about the Yako? What are those made of?
They're cedar 2x6s on edge. We glue 3 cedar 2x6s together and then hand shape them. I have a mold for a carbon Yako, but with this design, I found that the lighter Yakos did not feel any better. It was almost worse in a way. At least with this boat, with this design, having a little bit of extra weight in the Yako seemed to be a bit easier on the balance for the crews that I've been paddling it with and testing it out with. And I personally think it looks a little bit cooler. Sure. Yeah, with the wood Yako.
Can you vary the rigging at all? Can you rig it light? Can you rig it heavy?
So if you order a boat, we mainly will be asking the people who are going to be paddling it. And I understand it's hard to know, like if it's a club that's ordering it, you know, you got a lot of variety. You know, you could have the juniors paddling it. You could have a women's crew, a men's crew. So what we're trying to do is I went kind of old school in a way with the rigging. You know, it is not the click-in rigging like the unlimited 6-mans are or 1-mans. It's kind of more Tahitian style. Got the raised vise and you rubber lash it. The reason I did that is because that's just how I envisioned it in my head. But also I really like the ability to adjust more of your rigging. Where if you start to learn more about that style of rigging and you start learning about, you know, setting your AMA further away or closer in to the hull and being able to adjust the level of the boat based off of shims and blocks that you put out on the AMA side or even on the hull side. You can change the pitch of the AMA more if you want, while also changing the level that the boat sits at. I'm a nerd for that kind of stuff, so that's what I was into it for. But if, you know, long story short, if you get a canoe or get the 3-man for a club, we're going to have a variety of different size blocks that you can add to the AMA. Okay. So the canoe right now is basically set up for like a 550-pound crew. So say like if it was you, me, you know, guys that are, you know, 170 to 190 pounds, if there was 3 of them in it, it would sit level. Okay. If there was a junior team that was taking it out, they're obviously not going to sink the boat as much. They're going to be sitting off to the left. So we're going to have different blocks that you can just slip into the AMA side, rubber lash it up, and that's going to help prop the boat up to level.
Cool.
Okay. And then vice versa. If you have a group of some bombers, you got a 700-pound crew in there, we're going to have blocks that you can add to the hull side. So that'll help raise the rigging on the hull side and level everything out. And then it can hopefully accommodate a really wide group of people.
Awesome. Now, you and I had a cool article we put together for the V1 and how rigging V1 was kind of an art form that you can really dial it in and feel good about your team, but it takes a little time. You're a pretty approachable guy. I imagine clubs that are going to buy it are going to reach out to you and be like, hey, can you give us a little like tips on the shims? Maybe this isn't working. Because I know people have reached out to you just as far as like their artist canoes. Like, hey, I'm having a hard time with the rigging. Can you help me out? So I would like, you're probably going to want to help.
Oh, especially with these boats, because we don't make them fast. You know, we're a small shop. We're a really small operation. It's new. Everything's brand new. Mm-hmm. The boats that we're selling now pretty much are all going to be in Southern California. Mm-hmm. So if you get one of these things, you can basically expect that I'm going to be dropping it off personally. I'm going to be going through all that kind of stuff, all the little nitty gritty. different ways to rig it, when to rig it a certain way, when to use the blocks and those shims that, you know, I just talked about. And then you can probably expect that I'm going to be checking in on the boat every month or two just to see it and make sure that everything's good and make sure it's getting treated well. Because
gotta respect the canoe.
Not necessarily just for that portion of it, but also because, you know, we're not trying to hide the fact this is all brand new. You know, we've been going through this process of learning how to construct these boats, how to create this design and make it repeatable. And I want to see how the longevity is. You know, that's why we've got now 2 demo boats that we built, and we're using those 2 boats to see how they weather. You know, how do they handle when we give them to a club to go use? What's the first thing that's going to get damaged? And trying to analyze all those things. And so it's been enough time now where I think that we've figured out most of our things that are going to become issues and address those. And even as the boats keep going out in production, I want to keep tabs on them. That's kind of my lofty goal, you know, as a canoe builder. I want to try to know these boats intimately wherever they may end up, because it's tough to see them go.
Yeah, I bet. Part of the family.
Yeah.
Right on. So, I mean, a lot of these are going to be in California, perhaps Southern California.
Definitely for a while. I think most of the boats we sell will be right here. You know, hopefully, fingers crossed, if we get orders.
Yeah, and I hope you do. I'm imagining I want to get in one. So, I mean, so what kind of waters are we looking at that these are going to really thrive in?
I designed this one. My goal was for here. Southern California was where my focus was. I wasn't trying to think. I figured if I'm going to start with anything, I might as well make it work for what we got here. Mm-hmm. So flat water, yes, that was a big portion of it, but I really didn't just want a canoe that would be good in flat water and then kind of suck out in the open ocean. You know, what's the point then of an outrigger canoe? You got to have something that works well out in the ocean. Mm-hmm. And we don't get crazy conditions often. It happens, but not every day.
Right.
So I wanted something that would work for just a normal afternoon west wind, you know, Southern California bump in the open ocean there. So that's kind of what the main design was for. We're gonna take it up to the gorge in July and test it there.
That'll be fun.
See what happens. You know, we've had it in a couple decent wind days here locally, and it did well. There was things that we really liked, and certain things that we've been addressing and adjusting and trying to evolve with the design to make it better in the bump. But the gorge is going to really kind of tell us what we need to do.
Yeah, that'd be a good test. Yeah. So I spent a lot of time in a one-man, and as of recently, I'm getting a chance to get back in the OC6s. I have a 2-man I've paddled in as well, and with you, I've gotten a chance to paddle in a 2-man. That was awesome. Where does this rank as far as like experience? Like it's right in the middle of like a 1 and a 6. So is it lean towards 1 as far as?
Where does it rank in terms of like how?
Not rank. I mean,
or like how the level of difficulty.
Or just the feel. Like, do you feel like you're in a 6-man more? Does it feel like you're in a 1-man more, or is it?
If you're paddling, if you're in seat 1 and 2, it feels like a 6-man.
Okay.
If you're in seat 3, it feels like a V1.
Really?
Yeah, it's a weird. It's not as squirrely as a V1 is, but you have that feeling like you're under power in a 6-man. You have that feeling of you've got people pulling you along. You have the feeling of that momentum and glide that a 6-man can get, but it's maneuverable like a V1. Not quite as much, but it's not, you know, seat 3. If you're a really talented steersman, you can paddle basically the whole time, you know, unless you're in bombing conditions. And if you're not a good steersman or you're learning, which is kind of the point of the boat, is it's really meant to be a training tool for people to get better, mainly at steering, and also to fine tune, your togetherness or cohesiveness with seats 1 and 2. It can suck. It can be really annoying because it's like a V1. It's like a V1, but you have the power. There,
and it goes there.
Yeah, but you have the power of the people in front of you constantly moving the boat forward. And if you don't catch things at the right time, before you know it, you're spun around.
Wow.
It's not like a V1 where if you stop to correct something, the boat also stops. This boat, it's going because people are pulling it. So you've got to adapt pretty quick. So it's a weird feeling because it really is, in my mind, what I was hoping for now, or what I was hoping for back then when I originally started, was how do you make it truly feel like a small 6-man? That's what I was going for. Because I felt like there's other 3-mans that kind of felt like larger V1s to me. And I wanted to go the other way. I wanted to try to think about making it feel like a smaller 6-man. That was kind of my goal. Something with more, like, it's probably got more volume than it needs for here in California. But if it does work well in the bump at the gorge, you're going to be happy that you have that volume. So yeah, that's where it's at so far. That's what we've found out.
Yeah, I mean, seat 1 and 2 in a 6-man, it's such a special connection. If those two are locked in, I've been sitting a lot of 2 recently, and when I follow a certain one, when they're easy to follow or I can match them, the rest of the crew, you could just feel their spirits lift and the canoe gets up. The second that connection fails, it just like a chain coming up.
Just amplify that. That's what this boat is. Just amplify it. When it's good, it's great. When you're together, it feels awesome. When you're not, it's imagine as bad as it feels in a 6-man when you're 1, 2, or 1, 3, whoever are off. It's like that, but even worse because you don't have as much horsepower.
Right.
So
how perfect to dial it in then?
Well, that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the theory with the whole training boat aspect, is that it eliminates 3 people out of the 6-man, right? But it helps you to really identify all the nitty-gritty things that either you yourself do or the person you're trying to match up with does, and you can really hone in those things. So that's why it's going to be nice, like for 6-man crews, you can take 3 and 3 and keep mixing those different people around, and then realize, okay, these 3 work well together, these 3 don't. So let's keep trying to find what that magic, mix is. And if you've got 3 others, say you got 9, or most clubs have way more, you can start throwing in people that maybe you wouldn't have ever thought to throw in the 6-man and go, oh, they match up pretty well with so-and-so and it felt good. And
coach's dream.
Or a nightmare if you got a bad steersman back there and they're just...
Well, and like you said, if it's good for training a steersman too, you don't have to put 5 people through the sufferfest. You can two at the fun.
Exactly.
I'm excited to get in one. So what kind of availability are we looking at? When do we get to see?
We just finished that. The first production boat is done.
Yeah.
It's sitting in the shop. It's heading down to San Diego, hopefully this week.
Okay.
And we just got to do a little blessing, get it all straight away.
Good.
And then we'll start doing demos. You can reach out to myself about doing that. I know you're at the club where it's probably going to be for a while, so you'll be fine. I'm sure you'll get in it pretty quick. And it's probably going to bounce around San Diego for a little bit. I got a couple people up in Newport that want to get out on it, and we're just going to try to move this first production boat around and get it demoed. to whoever wants to use it in this area, and just see where things go.
So 3 questions. How fast have you gotten it going yet?
14 miles an hour.
Yeah?
That's the top speed so far in just a semi-decent downwind run.
Okay.
We did the Newport Loop,
Yep.
Go to Newport Bay, cross the highway, and across the peninsula, and run down.
So you carried this canoe across the strip there. So that's
it's great.
That's okay. So you can do that. It's pretty light.
Yeah, we'll go from NAC or from Castaways. We'll go up to 18th Street, and you got one guy in the nose, one guy in the tail, one guy in the ama, and you just put it up on your shoulder and just go straight across, stop traffic. Everybody.
All right. That tells me a lot, that it's maneuverable on land. It's not going to go back and hurt
it's
injuries.
It's easy.
All right, so that was one question. How much are they going to run? Well,
before the lumber shortage or after the lumber shortage?
Yeah, that's got to change things a little bit. Sorry to put that out there.
Before, we were looking at 15,000 flat.
Mm-hmm.
That was tax included for the base model.
Mm-hmm.
Just your basic hull, wood yakos, ama, grip tape on the floor of the boat, no foot braces. If you added foot brace or spray skirts, it would just tick up incrementally.
I had no idea it's even got those things. That's pretty cool.
We can. Yeah, we can. But it will add onto the cost. Yeah.
Yeah, but who doesn't want to accessorize
was what? Yeah, this first batch of boats that we use wood pre-lumber shortage, they'll be $15K flat. And now we're waiting on a shipment to come in of another batch of wood that we're getting milled, and that's going to be a bit more expensive, unfortunately. So we're looking. I don't want to give a price yet on what the future boats will be, because we're trying to cut other things out and trying to keep it no more than that 16 range. Okay. I've been met with a couple different, that's too cheap, that's too expensive. That's just what we're able to do right now, because there's 2 of us. There's my father-in-law, Pep, and myself, and a little bit of help from the kid Judson. I think you might know him. He's a Dana kid paddler. You'll be seeing him quite a bit here when races come up. He's been helping out a little bit. So it's mainly just 2 of us building these things. So our overhead, it's a small shop, is really low. So we're able to kind of build these things slowly, but we can keep our costs down. So we're trying to figure that one out now. We're dealing with this lumber thing.
And hopefully that's a temporary thing, and I'm sure people have an understanding of that. And if it goes up, it might come. Who knows? But that's, some things are out of our control. So
the cedar holes look really, really like a cool idea for a minute there, and then.
Well, I will tell you, I've seen the video. The looks make me want it more than just knowing that it's an awesome 3-man. So it does look great. It looks fast. The last thing I wanted to ask is, what's it called?
Heiva.
Tell me the story of the name.
Heiva. So that there's a festival down in Tahiti called the Heiva Festival, right? It's a cultural festival where they have music, dance, food, and racing. The VA races, the sprints. So it's like a 2.5 to 3 mile course, I believe, in a lagoon. On main island Tahiti. I can't remember what the lagoon that they race in is named, but they've got V1, V3, V6, V12, and V16, which is, we don't have any of that. No. Right? It's like Destruction Derby, but it's also like if Pinewood Derby, like, how crazy dads get over Pinewood Derby here in the US. If all those dads lived in Tahiti and were just as crazy about building their own canoes in their backyards and then racing them once a year and then destroying them and recreating them. That's what that is. It's
Yes.
chaos.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
And we got to race in it. In 2017, we went down for the IVF marathon distance race. We got to do Teaito, which was unreal. We got to do the IVF marathon, and then we got to do the Heiva sprints. And that was where I've always been intrigued by the 3-man, but never really, like, you don't really ever give it much thought because it's not around, but it's also, there's no industry set up around it. There's no races for it. There's no, as far as here in Southern California, really the only like races for the 3-man are sailing races, sailing canoe races or the Heiva sprints. And so we got to do this race. I think it was, I know Maika Scott, and I think Jimmy Spoto was in the boat, and myself, I think. I'm going to double check on that. And we got to do this race in the 3-mans, and I remember getting done with it and just being like, that was one of the craziest experiences. Like, I had more fun at those sprints, and I hate sprints. I had more fun doing that than I did any other race that whole trip. More fun than Teaito, more fun than the IVF race. And the 3-man was a big part of that, but also, doing just all the series of races. And so we were kind of waffling on what the name of the boat was going to be, and then finally thought about, well, what got me really excited about the 3-man, enough so that I decided to take Aaron up on his, offer to pay me to build a 3-man, and realized that it was from that. It was from that race, the Heiva.
Nice.
And so that's where the name came from. And I believe it means, at least from my kind of shoddy research, it's like a gathering. It's a party. It's assembling community, which when we built the boat, nobody could do. So it was a bit ironic, because this thing was built in the COVID era. Started just before it, but then really started to come to life during it. And that's where it came from.
Do you think we could start seeing a category of races if we get enough of these out there?
Maybe. Yeah.
This takes a couple next to each other, right?
I don't have like the highest hopes as far as I don't expect this to take off. If it does, that's great. But it was a way for me to start this process of learning what it takes to shape plugs, make molds, learn how to woodwork, for starters. I didn't do very much of that before doing this. And so I'm looking at it as, I love the boat personally. I have a fun time in it and I enjoy it. But it's not meant to be something that I expect to be all of a sudden a phenomenon.
Got it.
There have been 3-mans before, and they don't necessarily, they're a novelty thing. They don't necessarily change the game. You don't start seeing Molokai Channel getting raced in 3-mans, or having, Catalina races. And maybe it could happen. But it was more of a process of me starting this journey, learning how to design and build, and all the things that come with that, with this design. And I think it's a perfect design to do that with, because you have the ability to be a little bit more free with your design. There's no specs. There's no really other locally built boats that you're competing against in that category. So if it takes off, great. And if it doesn't, we've still got it for people who want it. And it's just going to lead to the next thing.
Right on. Good job, man. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
A fun thing to follow along. I remember seeing that Hana Hana race, the first iteration.
That was the tiny one.
Yeah.
That was the first one.
Version 2. I remember talking to you afterwards, and you're like, there's some things we got to work on. Yeah. And it was it's good that you didn't let that kind of stop you, but instead it kind of lifted you a bit. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's an addiction of sorts that I never knew I would have. You start thinking about all these different things that you want to adjust and try. And you think, you know, I've been around paddling my entire life and use a lot of different boats, and you think you know a lot about designs until you try to make one. And then you go, oh, wow, like, the guys that do this they actually do know what they're, you know, doing. And you go through a lot. It's trial and error. It's a lot of trial and error.
I've seen some surfboards shaped, and the templates are like so important to the shaper that they've created over the years that they use for a certain rail. Talked about stations or marks, and just you're building something that's going to come alive, and there's love that goes into it. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's good fun.
Well, thanks, Will. This is all the questions I had. You're probably gonna have more people asking you questions, but if there's anything you want to throw out there about the canoe, now's a shot, and then we'll see it on the water after that.
Yeah, no, I can't wait, man. We'll get it down to you soon, down south.
I can't wait, man. There's gonna be a lot of people excited to give this a shot, and I think it's gonna fit a lot.
We'll see it up at the gorge too. You know,
that'll be good. So yeah, a lot of people can see it at the gorge. All right. Yeah. And then if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do we find you?
I do. I've got Instagram, and for the Vaughan House. Mm-hmm. You just call me or text me.
Got it. We'll make sure people know how to get a hold of you. Right.
Yeah. Thanks.
Good stuff, Will. Thanks for your time, and
appreciate it, Clark.
On the water, buddy. Take care.
Thank you.
Yeah.